The evening has drawn its quiet curtain across the sky. Beyond the gentle shadows of tall trees, the steady sound of rainfall begins its song. Droplets tap against leaves, run down mossy trunks, and gather in soft streams along the woodland path. It is the kind of rain that soothes rather than unsettles. A rainfall without thunder or sudden gusts, simply steady, calming, and even. The air carries a coolness, fragrant with damp earth and pine. Somewhere in the distance, the faint call of a night bird rises, then fades back into the hush of the forest. The day is ending, and the world invites stillness. Along the narrow path, Elias, a quiet traveler, walks with an unhurried step. His boots press gently against the softened ground, each movement accompanied by the crisp sound of water shifting beneath. There is no rush. He knows where he is going. Ahead, nestled between the sheltering trees, the warm glow of a cottage window is waiting. The small stone and wood cottage appears almost as though it has grown naturally from the earth itself. Its walls are darkened slightly by the years, polished smooth by rain and time. Ivy climbs softly up one side, its leaves glistening with beads of water. A plume of smoke curls lazily from the chimney, carrying with it the subtle scent of wood smoke. To Elias, the sight is welcoming, familiar, even though he has traveled many roads. The cottage does not feel new or foreign. It feels like a place one has always known deep down. He approaches the wooden door, its surface worn smooth by countless hands. He pauses to listen, the soft percussion of rain on the roof, the occasional pop of firewood from within. The world outside grows dimmer while the inside waits with warmth. With a careful hand, Elias pushes the door open. Immediately the senses shift. The cool dampness of the outside world is replaced by a wave of warmth softly perfumed with chamomile and honey. Candles glow upon small shelves, and a round wooden table, their flames flickering like tiny suns. Shadows dance gently across the beams overhead. The rain, still steady outside now, becomes a softened backdrop, a distant lullaby against the window panes. Elias sets aside his damp cloak and takes a slow breath. The air is a comfort. Every corner of the cottage speaks of care. A stack of books resting neatly by a chair, woolen blankets folded on a bench, and a teapot already waiting upon the hearth. He moves toward the fire, the boards beneath his feet creaking softly as though in greeting. The fireplace is not large, but its flame is steady. Sparks rise occasionally, fading as quickly as they appear. He kneels, slightly extending his hands toward the warmth. The gentle heat flows into his palms, easing away the coolness of the rain. Nearby, a steaming kettle sits on a metal stand over the coals. Elias lifts it carefully and pours hot water into a ceramic teapot. The water strikes the dried chamomile blossoms with a muted hiss, releasing their gentle fragrance. He places the lid on the pot and lets it steep the aroma, slowly filling the room, mingling with honey already waiting in a small jar. He chooses a simple cup from the shelf. Clay hand-molded its surface smooth, but slightly uneven, in the way handmade things often are. He pours the tea, watching steam rise in elegant spirals. With slow patience, he stirs in a spoonful of honey, watching it melt into the liquid, turning the fragrance sweeter still. He lifts the cup, feeling its warmth seep into his fingers, and carries it to a chair near the fire. The chair is cushioned with a wool blanket woven in muted earth tones. Elias sits down, pulling the blanket lightly around his shoulders. The texture is soft, comforting, grounding. He leans back, letting the chair hold his weight as he takes his first sip. The tea is mild floral with a gentle sweetness that lingers. For a long moment, he simply breathes. The rain continues its endless rhythm outside. The fire crackles in its steady way. The candle flames sway slightly, casting golden light across the stone walls. All of these sounds and sights weave together into a single, seamless harmony. Elias sets the cup on the table beside him and draws a book from the nearby stack. Its leather cover is worn, the pages slightly yellowed with age. He opens it carefully, the faint scent of old paper rising into the air. The words are familiar, though he reads them as though for the first time, each line slow and measured. His eyes move gently across the page, but his thoughts drift as much as they focus. He reflects not on the story itself, but on the beauty of the act, sitting quietly turning pages, allowing the rain and fire to form the background music to his evening. There is no rush to finish, No need to remember every detail. The act of reading itself is enough. From time to time, he pauses to lift his cup, sip the tea, and watch the steam curl upward. He notices how it catches the candlelight, how it glows faintly gold before fading into the air. These small rituals, the turning of a page, the lifting of a cup, the sound of rain, are simple, ordinary, yet extraordinary in their quiet beauty. Elias reflects softly that the most precious moments are often the quietest. Time does not need to be filled with noise or busyness. It can flow gently like rain across a window pane, unhurried and graceful. In this cottage, with fire and tea and candlelight, time feels less like something passing and more like something present, resting alongside him. The rain outside shifts slightly, pattering a little stronger before easing back again, like the world reminding him of its presence. He listens with contentment. Every change in rhythm is simply another verse in the same soothing song. He turns another page in the book, his eyes moving steadily, so again he allows himself to drift, not minding if his thoughts wander. The soundscape of the cottage rain, fire, candle, tea is as much a story as the words in the book. Both carry him deeper into rest. As the evening settles more firmly, Elias places the book down, marking the page gently with a ribbon. He takes a final sip of tea, savoring the warmth, then sets the cup aside. The wool blanket rests more heavily on his shoulders, now its warmth mingling with the heat of the fire. His breathing slows, steady and calm. His gaze drifts to the window, where droplets race each other softly down the glass, leaving trails that shimmer faintly in the candlelight. The world outside continues its gentle song, while inside every detail whispers comfort. He leans back in the chair, feeling the harmony of it all. Rain warmth, tea, candlelight, and stillness. The night has only just begun, and already it feels infinite. Before we begin, let us gently return to where we last left Elias. He had stepped in from the rain, warmed his hands by the fire, and brewed a simple cup of chamomile tea with honey. Wrapped in a wool blanket, he settled into a chair, reading a worn book, while the steady rhythm of rain tapped on the windows. The evening unfolded like a soft melody, rain, candlelight, fire. and the warmth of tea blending into one perfect sanctuary. Now the story continues with the rain outside steady as ever and the cottage glowing more warmly as the night deepens. The scent of chamomile still lingers in the air, but now it has mingled more deeply with the faint perfume of burning wood. A subtle sweetness from the honey remains on Elias's tongue, soothing and grounding. He exhales slowly, content, and places both hands on the blanket that rests over his lap. The wool feels textured, slightly coarse in one direction and softer in another, like waves of warmth woven into threads. Elias smooths his palm across it, appreciating the sensation, taking in the humble beauty of handmade craft. Every fiber seems to hold a story, just as the walls of this cottage hold years of quiet evenings. He rises slowly from the chair, moving with a relaxed grace, and crosses to the small window nearest the fire. There, he places one hand lightly on the cool stone against his skin. Outside, the world is softened by the curtain of rain. The forest is a silhouette. Trees standing tall leaves, quivering gently beneath each drop. A lantern hangs just outside the window, suspended from a simple hook. Its glass is fogged slightly by the weather, but still a warm amber glow flickers within. Elias watches as the rain beads upon its surface, tiny jewels of water catching the light before running down in thin, clear streams. The lantern swings ever so slightly in the breeze, its glow shifting like a heartbeat. He reflects on the steadiness of the rain. Each drop is small, almost weightless, yet together they transform the evening into something vast and embracing. Patience, he thinks softly. The rain teaches patience. Each drop falls in its time, never hurried, never delayed. And so too can one move through life quietly, steadily, allowing each moment its place. Elias returns to the fire this time, choosing not to reopen his book. Instead, he leans back, lets the blanket envelop him, and closes his eyes. His attention turns more fully to the sounds around him. The rain steady and rhythmic, the occasional sigh of the fire releasing a puff of warmth, the faint whistle of the kettle as it cools on the hearth. Even his own breath, slow and steady, joins the gentle symphony. He allows each sound to rest in his awareness, not analyzing, not naming, simply receiving. Time itself seems to dissolve. The outside world grows distant. The cottage becomes the whole universe. After some time, Elias feels a quiet urge to add more light to the room. He rises again, moving toward a small wooden cabinet along the wall. Inside rests a cluster of beeswax candles, each slightly different in shape, their edges imperfect. He chooses to places them in simple holders and carries them carefully to the table. With one smooth motion, he strikes a match. The flame flares briefly before settling, then leans toward the wick. The candle catches its surface, softening, then melting into a gentle pool of gold. He lights the second candle, watching both flames dance in harmony. Their light flickers across the table, illuminating the teapot, the empty cup, and the faint spiral of steam still curling upward. He sits once more and observes how the candlelight changes the room. Shadows lengthen and shorten. Corners grow softer, less defined. The walls seem to breathe with the flicker. Every shift of light feels like a whispered story, wordless, yet deeply eloquent. Elias reflects again that nothing is truly still. Even in stillness, there is movement, the sway of flame, the fall of rain, the breath in the body. Stillness, he realizes, is not the absence of motion, but the gentle embrace of it. He feels grateful for these small rituals. Lighting candles, sipping tea, wrapping a blanket. They are modest gestures, yet they create a sanctuary of calm. They remind him that peace is not found in distant journeys or grand discoveries, but in the quiet honoring of the present moment. The rain shifts once more, softening for a while. Elias listens to the new rhythm, noticing the trickle of water as it slides from the roof and falls to the ground below. The sound is gentler now, like the whisper of a stream. He decides to prepare another cup of tea, savoring the process as much as the drink. He lifts the teapot, which is still warm, and pours slowly into his cup. The chamomile fragrance blooms once more, subtle but clear. This time, he chooses not to add honey. He wishes to taste the simplicity of the flower itself, the way it carries the memory of sunlight and fields. He sips eyes closed and lets the flavor unfold. Mild, earthy, calming. He feels it spread through him like warmth traveling inward from the chest. With cup in hand, he steps closer to the window again. The lantern outside still glows steady in the rain. Its flame mirrors the candles within, as though inside and outside are in conversation. The two lights nod to one another across the glass, flickering in unison. Elias smiles faintly, sensing how everything is connected: the lantern, the candles, the fire, the rain. Even the steam rising from his tea is another flame of sorts, soft and fleeting. All of them offer light in their way, whether by glow, by sound, or by warmth. He takes another sip and reflects on how time too is like flame. It dances, it shifts, it casts shadows and light. And yet, in the moment of watching it, there is nothing to chase, nothing to hold, only presence. Only now. He breathes slowly, deeply, letting these thoughts drift like clouds across his mind. He does not hold them tightly. They come and go as they wish. The fire offers a gentle crackle, drawing him back into the room. He sets his cup down, folds the blanket more fully around his shoulders, and leans once more into the chair. The candles glow beside him. The rain continues outside, unhurried. The night has settled fully now. The forest is hidden in shadow. The path outside likely softened into streams of water. But inside, all is luminous. All is safe. Elias feels it deeply, a sense of being held, of belonging exactly where he is. He allows his eyes to half close, vision blurring softly. Shapes become colors, and colors become light. The flicker of flame, the glow of lantern, the sheen of wet glass, all of it blends together like a painting without edges. His breathing slows further, syncing with the rhythm of the rain. Inhale, exhale, drop by drop, flame by flame, breath by breath. The world rests. Bow. The night has deepened, though time feels unmeasured here. Inside the cottage, the atmosphere is unchanged in its comfort. The rain outside continues its rhythm. The fire offers a steady warmth, and the glow of candles makes the room feel as if it were gently breathing. Elias rests in the chair, wrapped in the blanket, his body loose and unhurried. And for a while, he simply allows himself to sit without motion, listening. His mind drifts on the steady notes of rain, each drop like a bead of sound against the glass. They fall, slide, and disappear into the dark earth beyond. The thought comes to him that rain is like memory moments falling, flowing, then blending seamlessly into a greater stream. Elias rises slowly, carrying his cup back to the table. He places it carefully beside the teapot, where the last bit of steam still curls upward. He decides to stretch his legs, walking across the room with quiet steps. The wooden floor greets him with soft creaks, each sound steady, almost reassuring. He takes his time, hand gliding over the back of a wooden chair, fingertips brushing the curve of a shelf. On the far side of the room sits a small writing desk. A single candle burns there, its light spreading across parchment, a quill, and a small bottle of ink. Elias lowers himself gently into the chair, smoothing his hand over the grain of the desk. The wood is cool at first, but warms beneath his touch. He does not intend to write a letter to anyone in particular. Instead, he enjoys the ritual of dipping the quill, watching ink soak its tip, and letting words form freely. The soft scratch of the quill against parchment blends with the rain and the fire, a delicate sound that is soothing in its own right. He writes simple reflections, notes about the rain, the quiet comfort of tea, the way candlelight changes the shape of a room. He writes of the patience of water, the steadiness of flame, the embrace of blankets. His words are not for record nor for memory. They are simply part of the evening, like footprints left on a path that will later be washed smooth again. When the ink runs low on the nib, he pauses, lifts the quill, and watches the faint shimmer of wet letters on the page. They glisten for a moment in the candlelight before settling into matte black. He lets the parchment rest unhurried. He leans back in the chair, letting his gaze wander around the room. On a shelf above the desk sits a small collection of glass jars, each filled with herbs dried from the summer months. Their labels, handwritten, carry names both familiar and curious: chamomile, lavender, sage, lemon balm. The faintest scent lingers near them, earthy, floral calming. Elias reflects on how these herbs hold summer within them, gathered when the sun was strong Dried carefully, they now release their fragrance in winter's cool nights. It reminds him that each season gives something to the next autumn, to winter, to spring. Nothing is lost, only transformed. He takes one jar down lavender. He opens the lid, releasing a delicate perfume that blends immediately with the chamomile still drifting from the teapot. The scent is soothing, both floral and slightly woody, like a meadow just after the rain. Elias inhales, closes his eyes, and places the jar gently back in its place. Returning to the hearth, he adds a small log to the fire. The flames respond with a quiet crackle, rising slightly higher before settling again into their rhythm. He kneels for a moment, feeling the warmth against his face, and watches how the flames bend and weave around the wood. Each movement is graceful without hurry. With the fire refreshed, Elias decides to take out another book. This one is smaller, bound in dark green fabric with gold lettering faintly worn on its spine. He carries it to the chair, settles into the blanket once more, and opens the pages. The text is simple, short passages of reflection, like meditations. He reads them slowly, pausing often, not rushing to the next. Each passage invites him to notice something about life's quieter rhythms. The beauty of waiting, the gift of silence, the way time holds us gently when we let it. Elias nods faintly to himself as he reads, not as though agreeing, but as though recognizing something he has always known. He takes a break, closing the book on his lap. His gaze drifts again to the window. Outside, droplets streak down the glass, carrying faint reflections of the candlelight. The lantern still glows, though its flame has grown smaller, almost meditative in its steady endurance. Elias thinks the lantern has no desire to outshine the moon or the stars. It simply glows in its place, content to offer what light it can. There is wisdom in that, to live not in striving, but in simple offering. The rain shifts again, softening to a more delicate fall. Elias tilts his head slightly, listening to the change. It is like the forest has quieted further, leaning in to hear its own lullaby. He lets his breathing align with the softer pattern, inhaling with the rhythm, exhaling with ease. He reaches for the teapot again, pouring what remains into his cup. The liquid is cooler now, but still pleasant. He drinks slowly, enjoying the milder taste. With each sip, he imagines the fields where the chamomile once bloomed small flowers with golden centers, nodding beneath summer breezes. Even here on a rainy night, he feels connected to those fields, to the sun that once warmed them, to the hands that once gathered them. The thought reassures him that everything is part of a greater cycle. The rain outside will feed the soil. The soil will nourish the roots. Flowers will bloom again. The world is always giving, always flowing, always becoming. Elias places the cup down and closes his eyes once more. He lets the reflections fade into the background, resting now, not in thought, but in presence. His senses open again. The sound of rain, the crackle of fire, the scent of lavender lingering faintly, the warmth of the blanket, the glow behind his closed eyelids where candlelight filters faintly. Time feels suspended, as though this moment stretches without edge. The cottage itself seems to breathe with him, walls expanding and contracting softly like a companion, sharing in the rhythm of rest. He feels himself drifting deeper, the boundary between wakefulness and dream softening. He does not resist. He lets the night carry him gently as the rain continues its endless, soothing descent. Thus, the rain outside has taken on a steady, unbroken rhythm once again. Each drop falls like a gentle percussion, filling the night with a soothing backdrop. Inside, the air is warm and still scented with wood smoke, lavender, and the faint trace of chamomile tea. Elias sits in his chair, wrapped in the woolen blanket, letting the sounds of the night and the glow of the candles wash over him. He feels the weight of the day falling further behind, as though the rain itself has rinsed away every trace of motion, leaving only calm. The cottage has become its own little world, a place where time feels slow and kind, where every detail offers rest. After a few long, quiet breaths, Elias decides to shift from reading and writing into another ritual, tidying the room with gentle attention. He stands, smoothing the blanket as he lays it neatly over the back of the chair. The movement is simple, yet it carries its own comfort. Order itself is a kind of peace. He carries his empty cup to the table, places it beside the teapot, and wipes the rim clean with a soft cloth. The sound of ceramic against wood is delicate, almost musical. He notices how each action, though small, feels purposeful, as if each gesture honors the space around him. On the shelf by the hearth, he adjusts the placement of the books, aligning them carefully so their spines sit flush. The candle flames reflect faintly off their surfaces, golden light against worn leather and cloth. He brushes away a faint trace of dust, not in haste, but with care. As he moves slowly about the room, Elias reflects that tending to small things brings a deep kind of rest. When we pay attention to the ordinary, it becomes extraordinary. A folded blanket, a rinsed cup, a book aligned neatly. Each act becomes a thread in the tapestry of peace. He steps next to the window and places his hand gently on the sill again. The cool stone beneath his palm grounds him. He looks outside where the lantern still glows, haloed by rain. Drops trail down the glass in slow rivulets. Each one catches the amber glow before slipping away. Elias reflects softly, nothing needs to last forever to be beautiful. The lantern flame will dim eventually. The rain will cease. Even this night will end. But beauty lies in their presence now, in the way they create a moment that feels whole. The forest stirs slightly outside branches, swaying with the rain. The sound is muted, cushioned by the thick air. Elias imagines the trees bending gently, receiving the rain as nourishment. He feels the connection between the forest and the cottage, one offering shelter, the other offering embrace. He returns to the hearth and kneels to adjust the fire again. The wood shifts softly, sparks rising like fireflies before fading into air. He listens as the flames settle into a calmer burn, the heat radiating outward. The scent of smoke deepens slightly, mingling with the lavender that still lingers in the air. Once the fire is tended, Elias chooses another small ritual. He lifts one of the folded blankets from the bench, shakes it gently, and drapes it across the chair near the writing desk. The fabric releases a faint, comforting scent of wool. The act feels like preparing the room for someone unseen, as if the cottage itself appreciates care. Elias smiles faintly at the thought. In truth, the cottage feels alive. Its wooden beams, its stone hearth, its shelves and tables all seem to breathe with quiet presence. Caring for the cottage feels no different than caring for oneself. He then notices a small wooden box tucked near the bookshelf. He brings it to the table and opens it carefully. Inside are smooth river stones collected perhaps long ago. Their surfaces glisten faintly polished by water and time. He lifts one, rolling it gently between his fingers. Its coolness contrasts with the warmth of the room. The stone is simple, unadorned, yet Elias sees in it a history, years of being shaped by water, smoothed patiently by the stream. He reflects on how patience creates beauty, not through force, but through gentle persistence. He sets the stone back in the box, closes the lid softly, and feels a quiet gratitude for the reminder. The night grows deeper still. Outside, the rain continues, though more softly now, as though the storm has grown tired and is settling into rest. The cottage feels hushed, wrapped in layers of sound and light. Elias decides to light one more candle. He moves to the shelf, chooses a shorter one this time, and places it near the window. When lit, its glow meets the lantern outside the two flames reflecting across the glass. They flicker toward each other as if sharing a conversation across the rain. He stands for a while watching this silent exchange of light. Candle within, lantern without. Both steady, both content to shine where they are. Elias reflects that there is no need to compare or compete, only to glow in one's own way, in one's own place. Returning to his chair, he pulls the blanket around him once more and leans back. He closes his eyes, letting the flicker of flame paint golden shadows against his eyelids. The rhythm of the rain continues. The fire crackles. His body feels heavy, warm, and safe. He allows a soft smile to come to his lips, not for any particular reason, but simply because the night feels complete. The night has grown deeper still. The forest outside is veiled in darkness, softened by the steady fall of rain. Within the cottage, the warmth of the fire and the glow of candles create a pocket of timeless stillness. Every surface carries light in some form, the golden shimmer of wax, the faint reflection on polished wood, the soft pulse of the lantern outside. Elias rests quietly in his chair, the blanket drawn around him, listening. The sounds form a layered chorus. Rain at the windows, fire in the hearth, and the subtle creaks of the old cottage itself as it shifts with the night air. All of it feels alive, familiar, and deeply comforting. After a while, Elias feels drawn to another small ritual. He rises slowly, stretching his arms and shoulders, and walks toward a low shelf where a small clay jar rests. The jar contains dried lemon balm leaves, pale green and curled with time. He removes the lid, releasing a gentle fragrance, fresh, slightly citrus, like a memory of summer fields. He decides to prepare a simple infusion. From the hearth, he takes the kettle and fills the teapot again with hot water. He drops in a few lemon balm leaves, watching them float at first, before slowly unfurling, releasing their color into the water. The steam rises upward, carrying with it a calming scent that blends with the lingering lavender in the air. Elias pours himself a cup, the ceramic warm in his hands. He takes a sip. The taste is delicate, faintly sweet, with a quiet freshness that lingers at the back of the tongue. It is different from chamomile, brighter, more airy, but equally soothing. He breathes deeply, letting the scent and flavor anchor him once more in the present. With cup in hand, Elias wanders slowly around the cottage. He notices again the details that make this place feel alive, the lines of the wood grain on the beams, the subtle gleam of melted wax dripping down a candle, the way the fire casts long shadows against the stone wall. Each detail feels like part of a story told without words. He pauses at the writing desk once more, where the parchment from earlier lies waiting. The ink has dried, leaving his reflections as gentle marks upon the page. He runs his fingers lightly over the words, not to read them, but to feel their presence. Writing them had been enough. Now they rest quietly as part of the evening. Elias sets the cup down beside the parchment and opens the drawer of the desk. Inside, he finds small, simple objects, smooth buttons of carved wood, a bit of twine, and a folded piece of linen cloth. Each one seems to belong here, useful in its way. He closes the drawer softly, smiling at the thought that even humble objects have their place. Returning to the window, he gazes out into the rain. The lantern still glows faintly, though its flame has grown lower with the passing hours. Raindrops continue to race each other down the glass, catching the light as they fall. Beyond the trees, sway gently, their outlines softened by the mist of night. He thinks again of patience, how trees endure countless rains, countless seasons, never hurrying, never resisting. They stand and receive what the world offers, allowing themselves to be shaped slowly by time. Elias feels a kinship with them, as though sitting here listening to rain, he too is part of that same patience. When he returns to the hearth, Elias notices that the candles on the table have burned lower. The wax has pooled at their bases, glowing softly in little puddles of gold. He leans close to watch the slow drip of wax as it slides down each drop, hardening as it cools. Even in such small movements, he finds fascination. He takes another sip of tea, feeling the warmth spread gently through him. Then, setting the cup aside, he kneels before the fire once more, adding a final log for the night. The flames accept it with a quiet crackle, sparks, lifting briefly into the chimney before disappearing into the dark. The new wood adds a deeper warmth to the room. The smell of smoke grows richer, mingling with the sweetness of lemon balm and the faint floral note of lavender that still hangs in the air. Elias breathes it in with a long, steady breath, savoring the layers of scent. He reflects softly that life is full of such layers. Tea and wood smoke, candle and rain. One element alone is comforting, but together they form something greater, a harmony of presence. After tending the fire, Elias returns to his chair. He draws the blanket back around him, folds it across his lap, and lets his body sink into the cushion. The tea warms his hands. The rain soothes his ears. The fire glows against his skin. The candles breathe golden light around the room. His thoughts wander toward gratitude. He thinks of how simple rituals, lighting a candle, preparing tea, folding a blanket, can shape the atmosphere of an evening. They are ordinary, yet in their ordinariness lies their power. Each action becomes a small offering to the present moment, a way of saying, "This is enough." Elias tilts his head back slightly and closes his eyes. He imagines the forest beyond the walls, the tall trees drinking in the rain, the earth softened beneath them, the small streams forming in hidden places. He feels connected to it all, as though the cottage itself is part of the forest, a warm heart within the body of the woods. The sound of rain shifts once more, a little lighter now, as if the night is beginning to rest more deeply. Elias listens each drop like a note in a lullaby. His breathing follows slow and measured. He allows his body to grow heavier, the blanket pressing softly against him. He thinks there is no need to hold on to this moment, for it holds him. Time moves gently, like water flowing downstream. All he must do is rest within it. The fire continues to glow, the candles continue to flicker, the rain continues to fall. Everything is as it should be. The hour has grown late. Beyond the walls of the cottage, the rain continues its quiet descent. The world outside has fallen deeper into shadow, but inside light still glows in warm and gentle pools. The fire burns low embers glowing like small suns nestled in ash. The candles flicker softly, their flames smaller now, yet steady. Elias rests in his chair, the wool blanket across his lap, his body heavy with calm. His breathing has slowed to the rhythm of the rain, steady and unbroken. Every sound, every flicker of light seems to weave into the same lullaby, a song of rest. Elias leans his head back and allows his gaze to drift upward. The wooden beams of the ceiling are bathed in shadow, though the candlelight sends golden lines across them. He watches the play of light and dark shift with the flames, as if the beams themselves were moving slowly like clouds, passing across the night sky. The sight reminds him of the way time moves steady, yet always changing, never quite still. He reflects that to sit here in this quiet cottage is to feel the kindness of time, not rushing forward, not pressing, only flowing gently like the rain on the roof. He closes his eyes, but the imagery lingers behind his eyelids. Gold and shadow, rain and flame. The cottage feels like it has entered a dream of its own, and he is simply part of it, resting in its embrace. After some minutes of stillness, Elias feels a gentle wish to walk once more around the room. He rises slowly, careful not to disturb the blanket too much, and sets it neatly over the chair's back. His steps are soft, each creak of the floorboards sounding like a friendly greeting. He pauses by the small wooden box of stones he had opened earlier. Lifting the lid again, he chooses one smooth stone and carries it with him as he walks. The stone is cool in his palm, perfectly rounded its surface, polished by years of water's patience. He carries it to the window and holds it up to the glass. Outside, the lantern still glows faintly, though its flame has shrunk lower. The rain glimmers in the lantern's light, and the stone in Elias's hand catches a trace of that glow. For a moment, he reflects on how both the stone and the lantern hold light in their way, one through reflection, the other through flame. He breathes, slowly presses the stone lightly to his chest, and sets it back into the box, closing the lid once more. He returns to his chair, but instead of sitting back fully, he leans toward the small table where the teapot rests. The lemon balm tea has cooled, but he pours the last of it into his cup anyway. The liquid is no longer steaming, yet it carries a subtle fragrance still. He sips slowly, tasting the quiet freshness. The coolness of the tea offers a contrast to the warmth of the fire, and he finds pleasure in the balance. Warmth and coolness, fire and water, night and light, all weaving together into harmony. With cup in hand, Elias lets his eyes rest on the candle nearest the window. Its flame flickers softly, reflected faintly in the glass. Beyond, the rain continues drop by drop, tracing lines down the pane. He feels as though the rain and the flame are in conversation, one flowing, the other dancing, each offering its own rhythm. When the cup is empty, Elias sets it aside, folds the blanket back across himself, and leans into the chair once more. He lets his body sink deeper this time, his weight fully supported. His breathing grows heavier, but still calm. The cottage hums with quiet life. The fire sighs with the shift of embers. The candles whisper as their flames waver gently. The rain continues, unending, patient. All of it joins with his own breath, steady and slow. Elias reflects that in such moments, one feels less like an individual and more like part of something larger. He feels himself as one note in a greater song, a song sung by rain, flame, wood, and stone. A song of stillness, a song of rest. At length, Elias opens his eyes to check the candles. Their flames are low, but still steady. He rises and begins to prepare the cottage for sleep. His movements are deliberate, gentle, honoring the space. He lifts one candle, cups his hand near the flame, and exhales softly. The flame trembles, then fades, leaving behind a thin curl of smoke. The scent is faintly sweet, mingling with the lavender and lemon balm already in the air. He extinguishes another, and then another, each one releasing its little wisp of fragrance. He leaves only one candle burning, the one near the window, still facing the lantern outside. Together, the two flames continue their quiet dialogue across the glass. Elias smiles faintly at the sight, comforted by their companionship. He folds the parchment on the desk, places it neatly beneath the quill, and closes the small jar of ink. The desk feels complete, ready for rest, just as he is. He smooths the blanket once more across his chair, then lifts it to his shoulders, wrapping himself fully in its warmth. The wool holds the faint scent of the evening smoke, tea, and candle. Finally, Elias stands by the hearth one last time. The fire has burned low embers, glowing faintly red. He stirs them gently with the poker, watching sparks rise like fireflies. Before fading, he places the poker aside, satisfied that the fire will carry its warmth safely through the night. He sits once more, wrapped in his blanket, eyes half closed. The room is darker now, shadows longer, yet it feels even more restful. He lets his gaze drift to the single candle by the window, its flame swaying gently, mirrored by the lantern outside. Elias reflects on how both flames will eventually fade, and yet in this moment, they are enough. The present holds all that is needed: light, warmth, shelter, and peace. He breathes deeply, feeling the truth of that settle into his body. His eyes grow heavier, his breathing deepens. The rain outside continues, steady and endless, like time itself. He allows himself to be carried by it, drifting between wakefulness and dream. The cottage is nearly dark now. Only one candle burns by the window, its golden glow reflected in the glass. Beyond, the lantern outside continues to shine faintly, though its light is low. Together, they seem like two companions keeping vigil through the rain. The fire has settled into glowing embers, their warmth steady, their color deep and red. The room carries the gentle hush of late night, a time when the world seems to pause to breathe a little slower. Elias rests in his chair, wrapped in his wool blanket, listening to the rhythm of rain as it carries the hours forward. Elias lifts his head slightly, gazing around the room. Shadows move with the sway of the candle flame's soft shapes that blend into one another. The shelves, the desk, the wooden beams all appear softened as if wrapped in sleep themselves. He reflects that perhaps the cottage is dreaming. Its walls hold memory. Its beams carry years of sound and silence. Tonight, as the rain falls, the cottage seems to exhale, settling into its own rest. Elias feels honored to be part of that dream, folded into its quiet rhythm. His body is heavy, but not yet ready to surrender fully to sleep. He decides to take one last slow walk around the room. He rises, keeping the blanket draped around his shoulders, and steps softly across the floor. The first stop is the bookshelf. He runs his hand lightly across the spines, feeling the varied textures of leather cloth and paper. Each book carries a life within it, though he does not open any now. Their presence alone is enough, like quiet companions lined in a row. He moves next to the writing desk. The parchment he had folded rests neatly, the quill lying across it. The jar of lavender and the jar of lemon balm sit quietly on the shelf above their scents, still faint in the air. He inhales deeply, noticing the floral notes softened by the cool freshness. The combination is grounding, reminding him of earth and field, of meadow and sky. At the window, he pauses, resting his hand on the sill. The candle beside him flickers its flame, bending slightly as though leaning toward the glass. Outside, the lantern's light wavers in response. Raindrops trickle slowly down, catching both glows and merging them together. Elias thinks two lights separated by glass, yet together in reflection. He reflects on how companionship often comes quietly, not in words, but in presence. The lantern does not speak to the candle, and yet their glow comforts one another. So too do people he muses, often needing only to share space to rest together in silence. He stays at the window for some time, watching droplets form, gather and slide downward in silvery lines. The rain has softened to a more delicate fall, as though the sky itself is growing drowsy. The forest beyond is hidden now in mist and darkness, but its outline can still be felt like a protective embrace around the cottage. He presses the blanket closer around his shoulders and whispers a simple thought to himself. This is enough. The words carry no urgency, no demand, only acceptance. Returning to the hearth, Elias lowers himself carefully onto the rug before the embers. The glow is faint but steady, pulsing gently in waves of red and orange. He watches the shifting light, noticing how it rises and falls, brightens and dims like a slow heartbeat. The warmth is subtle now, not intense, but it seeps into him nonetheless. He places his hands lightly on the rug, feeling the texture of the woven fibers. He leans forward, resting his chin on his hands, and allows himself to simply gaze. The embers remind him of time itself, glowing remnants of something once brighter, now softer, yet still alive. Time, he reflects, is never lost. It only changes form like wood, to flame, flame to ember, ember to ash. Each stage has its beauty, each worthy of being honored. After sitting by the hearth for some minutes, Elias rises and returns to his chair. He lifts the blanket once more, wrapping it securely around himself. His body welcomes the weight, as though it has been waiting for this moment of complete rest. He leans back, head sinking into the cushion, eyes drifting closed. The sounds of the night become more pronounced. The softened rain, the faint whisper of candle flame, the quiet hum of embers. Each sound seems to grow larger as his awareness narrows, guiding him deeper inward. In this state, thoughts become softer, less like words and more like images. He imagines the forest outside tall trees resting with him, their roots drinking quietly from the softened earth. He imagines streams forming in hidden places, carrying water gently through the soil. He imagines the rain itself as a kind of lullaby sung by the sky, endless and patient. His breathing slows further. Inhale, long and steady. Exhale, quiet and complete. Each cycle of breath feels like a wave rising and falling, carrying him closer to sleep. For a brief moment, he opens his eyes again, letting them rest on the candle near the window. The flame is smaller now, its wick shorter, but it still glows faithfully. Beyond the lantern outside continues to shine, though its flame too is nearly spent. Elias watches them both, sensing that they will fade in their own time without hurry. He reflects that nothing needs to last forever to be meaningful. Even a brief glow can be enough to guide to comfort, to warm. He lets this thought settle into him like a final word of the evening. His eyes close once more. The cottage is almost completely dark now, though its presence is as strong as ever. The blanket holds him in warmth. The chair supports him fully. The sounds cradle him, weaving together into a single endless hum. Time drifts. The line between waking and dreaming softens. Elias does not resist. He simply lets himself float, carried by rain, by ember, by flame. The candle flickers once more, steady but small. The lantern outside glows faintly haloed in mist. The rain continues unbroken, as though it has always fallen and will always fall. Elias drifts further, breath by breath, into the quiet embrace of the night. The cottage is wrapped in near complete stillness now. The embers glow faintly in the hearth, their light soft as the last trace of sunset long after the sun has gone. One candle remains by the window, its flames slender, wavering with each quiet draught. Beyond the glass, the lantern outside flickers weakly, its glow softened by mist and rain. The rain itself has settled into a finer fall, less a percussion, more a silken curtain. It whispers across the roof, slides gently down the panes, and gathers in hushed pools along the earth. The sound is as steady as breathing infinite and unbroken. Elias sits in his chair, cocooned within the wool blanket body, fully relaxed. His eyelids are heavy, his head tilted slightly to one side. The world feels distant, yet every sound and glow still reaches him like threads, tying him softly to the present. He reflects faintly that nights like this are gifts. Nothing extraordinary, no grand event, only rain, flame, tea, and stillness. And yet these simple things form a sanctuary as complete as any palace. He feels a quiet gratitude for their presence, for the way they cradle him toward sleep. He breathes deeply, inhaling the lingering fragrance of herbs and smoke. With each exhale, he feels his body grow heavier, sinking deeper into the chair. The wool blanket warms him, the cushion holds him, and the cottage itself seems to surround him like a gentle embrace. The candle flame sways, and for a moment, Elias opens his eyes. He watches its slow, patient dance reflected in the glass, where raindrops continue to trace downward. Beyond the lantern flickers once more, then steadies. Both flames, inside and out, glow in companionship. He reflects softly. Even as night deepens, light remains. Not to banish the darkness, but to soften it, to remind us that warmth and comfort can always be found. He lets the thought drift, not holding it tightly, but letting it dissolve into the rhythm of the rain. He closes his eyes again, breath steady, body loose. Time drifts without measure. Minutes feel like hours, and hours like a single breath. The cottage holds its silence, broken only by the lull of rain and the quiet hum of cooling embers. Elias drifts deeper into rest. His mind no longer spins reflections, no longer gathers words. Instead, he simply feels the warmth against his skin, the rhythm of his breath, the faint soundscape of rain and flame. The line between wakefulness and dream softens completely. Images drift like clouds across his mind. Trees swaying in the mist, streams carrying water through forest soil, a meadow blooming beneath sunlight. They come and go gently, like the rise and fall of breath. His body surrenders, sinking further into the chair, wrapped in the blanket's soft weight. His shoulders loosen. His arms grow heavy. Even his breath becomes feather-light, barely stirring the air. The candle by the window lowers further, its wax pooling, its flame shrinking, but steady. Outside, the lantern flickers, almost fading, then holding once again. Together, they seem to nod in unison, as if keeping watch over the traveler who rests within. The rain does not tire. It continues its endless song, steady and soothing. It falls on roof and tree, on stone and soil. It flows quietly, nourishing, renewing. To Elias, now almost fully asleep, it is not a sound at all, but a presence, vast, infinite, gentle. He dreams he is part of the rain falling softly, joining the earth, flowing onward. The dream is seamless, without edges, carrying him deeper into the night. The embers in the hearth glow faintly, then dim a little more. They do not vanish at once, but gradually, patiently, like time itself. Their warmth lingers in the air, mingling with the faint perfume of herbs and wool. The cottage rests now as deeply as Elias does. Its beams and stones, its shelves and windows, all hold stillness. Even the air seems to pause, listening only to the rain. Elias's breathing is slow, steady, and deep. He is no longer in the world of reflection, but in the world of dreams. His thoughts have quieted entirely. His body has released every last tension. The candle continues to glow. The lantern outside still flickers faintly. But even as they will one day fade, their task is complete. They have guided the night, softened the dark, carried him safely to rest. The rain continues. The fire has stilled. The candle glows. The traveler sleeps. All is whole. All is safe. All is peace.